We also talked about the business model canvas, and here's the key questions you would answer in each section. And this is your executive summary on your business plan, but it's also something that I expect you to do for Tesla. In a real consulting project, what I would encourage you to do, and you can do for this final case analysis, is to fill this out as is today. And then when you get to the last slide here and you've made a final recommendation, you could cut and paste, copy this again, and then just go in and make and highlight very clearly wherever there might be changes as a result to the strategic recommendation you're making. And so a strategic recommendation will have impact on one or more of these boxed categories, and therefore slightly to dramatically change the business model moving forward if it was adopted. So I'm breaking here to move us into what is completely new, although I did highlight these pretty broadly. And so the TOES matrix is swap backwards, but it's where we take the strengths and weaknesses we've found, the opportunities and threats. Those come right off of the internal, external factor analyses. So the external in the opportunities and threats, the internal from the internal factor analysis for strengths and weaknesses. So if you see here I actually have some information about Callaway Golf, company that we looked at in the golf manufacturing space, and some of the things that they were particularly good at, weak at, things, opportunities that were emerging at that time, and some threats they were facing at that time. You would have a blank one like this that you could work off of, and you would put down what you found for the strengths for Tesla, the key weaknesses that Tesla has compared to others in the industry, what opportunities you see potentially in the space, and then core threats they have to address. And from them, you can begin to combine not all opportunities, not all strengths, one strength, one opportunity, one strength, one opportunity to come up with one aggressive strategy, one weakness, one opportunity to come up with a turnaround strategy, one strength, one threat to get a diversification strategy, one weakness that has to be overcome to address one threat for a defensive strategy. And the way that might look, particular companies, so payroll services is an area of strength for Paychex. The opportunity to serve small businesses, that's how we get the business model that is Paychex as we think about it. If we look at limited funds, a weakness compared to its competitors, but the opportunity to provide low-cost air, we get Southwest strategy where they fly into smaller airports where they have a single aircraft that can be flown by every single crew that they have, and decreases their cost of maintenance and makes it very easy to swap one plane out for another. There's a whole bunch of other things they've done to address those limited funds, but those are some of the key, doing their billing or doing their booking themselves, not doing pre-seating, and you just kind of go on and you take an empty seat when you get on the plane, things like that. We get down here, and GE bought a small company called Plug Power that had developed some really good battery related energy technology. And so there's new tech, new entrants into some of the industries GE is in. They took advantage of their strength of having strong financial backing, strong brand recognition, to buy and unleash some technology that they were able to acquire by taking over this company, Plug Power. Then finally, a defensive strategy, being a relatively small player up here, relatively small size, having strong competitors. SoftSoap came up with a defensive strategy where they protected market share by finding that the pumps to dispense the soft soap, there were two of them, and they contracted to buy all of their capacity to produce those pumps for the containers for a 2-year cycle that gave them a chance to get some market share and name and brand recognition before bigger companies could start to erode that market share. There are lots of different strategies and we've talked about going from being low cost to very different. This is kind of a blend of the two. We can be niche focused. There's different within that. We can look to form key partnerships or merge or acquire other organizations. We can outsource certain functions to others. We can make defensive or offensive moves. This is responsive. This is more initiative front end. Leading this backwards and forwards integration is about whether we backwards integrate to start doing some things that suppliers did for us. So if I sell bacon, I can start to raise pigs, or we can forward integrate if I grow, if and I raise pigs and then I decide um, to open up my own slaughterhouse to turn that into bacon and other kinds of pork, then I could forward integrate. We also looked at functional areas then within a strategy and think about how it might impact each part of the company. And we think about the timing of those moves. Will we be first to market? Will we be a late responder? Or will we be trying to adapt and learn from others who are first movers as quick as we can? And we're somewhere along that continuum. Finally, I want to talk a little bit about blue ocean strategy, which for me is a really good tool to think about how can we compete without just trying to be cheaper or more efficient. How can we be different and maybe therefore attract some different customers? One way that Roberts is different, for example, is the strong faith-based. It distinguishes us from 90% of other higher ed institutions out there. And then you have to find out if that's valuable to some subgroup of customers. It's obviously not valuable to everyone, but it is valuable to some. And we ask things like, what will we stop doing? What would we eliminate completely or reduce how much we do? What could we start doing? Or expand and do more of it, at least if we're already doing some. And that's some of how you get a distinct blue ocean strategy. These just compares the two side by side. But the authors of this concept have kind of mixed them. If we had red and blue mixed together, we'd come up with purple. And so they have a purple strategy that's outlined here that I think is more reflective of what more companies can really achieve. So we won't get completely uncontested market space, but we can compete in an existing market space, but have something that gives extra to our customers that differentiates us in some way from our competition. And so this middle ground here, I think, is a step away from the high intensity of competition that happens in this setting. Is much more achievable and may not represent everything of blue ocean, but I think it's an important way to think about how to move in that direction to make competition less critical, less severe. And then finally, you will make a recommendation. Be clear about that recommendation. Give strong rationale for your choice. Think about what the outcome would be, what you believe the outcome would be if we were in fact able to achieve it. So not just what you're recommending, why you think it would work, but also if successful, what would we see different? Would we gain market share? Would we increase profitability? Would we move from the second biggest player to the first? In Tesla's case, would they become dominant in, or would they become a much more equivalent in size to their competitors, or is that not really where this strategy is leading us? But be clear about what you think success would look like, a couple of objective measures, ideally, that we can look at and say, we did what you said, we understood why we did it, and now we're just checking to see, did it give us the outcome, the results we were looking for? All right, that should be helpful. And that is what I think is the final lecture for the semester. Blessings, and really appreciate you guys. You've been a wonderful group. Really sad not to have more time face to face with you because As seniors, you're my favorite people that I get to teach. You're just, you've grown so much, and I'm really thankful to get to be part of your lives. Love you guys.